Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Telling me what he wants. You with me?
Yep.
He wants to move out of mother-in-law's house. He wants to own his own house. He wants to have his own business. He wants to do all these things. But who's going to hold him accountable to do those things, right? And so I get into this really uncomfortable conversation with him about accountability, and specifically about his wife and the relationship that he has with his wife. And he literally says to me, you know, if you asked her, she would tell you that I could do better. Okay, now we know where we're headed,
Yeah.
right? So he goes home, no joke, he goes home and has that conversation with her that afternoon. And I get a message from him that evening going, you know, you really know your stuff.
Mm.
We had the best conversation we've had our entire marriage today.
Wow.
And he goes, and she's going to hold me accountable.
Wow.
So that's what I'm getting at, right? It's literally somebody is going to have to hold whoever this is accountable. And they're going to have to get permission from them to do it.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yep.
So anyway.
A majority of people I work with, it gets lonely at the top.
It is.
And when they're running a company. So I really like this question on who holds you accountable?
Mm-hmm.
Who holds you accountable?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. That's a great question.
You can ask me.
That's a great question. Because
everyone listening should
29
ask
and a half years
themselves.
ago, I married accountability.
Oh, there. Yeah.
I married accountability. But in premarital counseling, I gave her permission to hold me accountable. So it was a different thing, right? So we had a conversation about standards, and we had a conversation about this is what I will and will not accept in terms of what the outcome looks like, right? And so we go into premarital counseling with Bill, who's my ghostwriter for my books.
Yeah.
I'm writing 3, by the way. We start the first one next month. Former pastor, did our premarital counseling, right? And he called it the most excruciating experience of his life. They've now written 40 books that have been published on marriage and family. No joke, right? In fact, there may be a few of them on these shelves. Well, they've been doing this for a while. They started doing this right after we got married.
Wow.
Like literally right after we got married, Bill comes to me and he goes, "Hey, will you be our success coach?" Sure, be happy to, right? 40 some books later, right?
Wow.
So literally I said to him, I said, look, I haven't had a relationship with a woman that lasted more than 60 days.
Wow.
No joke. Okay. And I said, so I don't know how to do this. I don't ever want to get divorced from this woman. I want to be married to her for the rest of my life. This is, my standard is we're going to be married forever. Okay. And so I said to him, I said, you need to think of me as a blank slate. So we go through this process. And at one point, we're in his office at the church, and my fiance at the time, is now my wife, gets up and storms out the door crying. And this man that has the sweetest heart of anybody you've ever met in your life looks at me with the most exasperated look on his face, and he goes, "Mike, you need to ask yourself a question." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "Do you want to be married or do you want to be right?" Right?
Yeah, such a good question.
And I went, "Oh, great question." Because what dawned on me, I was one of the best debaters in the nation when I was in school. I was in the top 0.5% when I graduated from high school. Okay, captain, junior and senior year of high school, the whole thing, right? I was really good at arguing. So what would happen is I'd get in an argument with the girl, win the argument, lose the girl.
Yeah.
Because my competitive juices would start flowing, right? And I was going to win that deal. It didn't matter what it took. There you go. So fast forward. About 20 years later, we get invited, my wife and I, to a wedding in Phoenix. And it's my former pastor's oldest son's getting married. And I literally watched this kid grow up. I sponsored every single sport he was in. I mean, I still remember him running down the court. He's this tall. He's running down the basketball court with MikeLitton.com on the back of his tank top, right? And I mean, they're barely twice the height of the basketball, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just cute as all get out, right? So basically, he invites us to his wedding, and we go out, and we're there for the rehearsal at the sanctuary, and we're walking up, and he's oh, Mr. Litton, and he comes up and gives me a big hug. Thank you so much for coming. We're so excited you're here. And he goes, could I borrow you for a second? Sure, absolutely. So he takes me around the corner, and he says, I'm really nervous, Mr. Litton. And he says, any advice? I said, yeah, I'm going to tell you what your dad told me. You want to be married or you want to be right? Okay. Now, fast forward another 10 years, and this is last year. My buddy, my friend, ghostwriter, former pastor, and his wife are doing a marriage conference. It's in Arizona, and they invite their son, who had just been awarded or voted high school football coach of the year for the state of Arizona. They ask him to come up and speak. So he gets up, the dad introduces him, dad sits down, the son comes up. Son says, before we get started, I want to tell you something that one of the wisest men I know shared with me the day before my wedding.
Wow.
And his dad goes, do you have any idea what it was like to sit there and listen to my oldest son tell these people the advice that you gave him that I gave you?
That's
right?
great.
He's like, this is one of those moments, man, and I had to share it with you. So he calls me and tells me, right? So yeah, so that's kind of my history, right? It was rough. It was rough, but we had to get through a bunch of the baggage and a bunch of the stuff that was going on in both of our lives and come to an agreement before we actually said I do.
Yep.
So that we were on the same page. And, to this day, people look at us and go, wow, you guys really operate well. And it's not the way it looks, okay? Marriage is not easy. It is tough. But I'll tell you this, if you're prepared correctly, and I mean prepared correctly like we were, it makes things a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
And it makes you more productive. It makes you more, it makes your life more joyous, and it's easier. So, life is rough enough, and marriage is rough enough without being on the same page when you get married. And, it breaks my heart when I see these kids nowadays getting married, and they're like, I ask them, so how'd your premarital counseling go? I'm like, what? No,
because that's the question: who's holding them accountable?
It's not good.
The reality is, if you're getting married, premarital counseling is the best form of that.
Well, you have to
right?
you have to get on the same page.
Yeah.
It's absolutely essential. And you think about it. You've got two people that have lived completely different lives. There's nothing connecting my wife and I prior to us meeting. Nothing. We have nothing in common except that we're football fans. That's pretty much it. We have nothing else in common. Our values are similar, right? Our upbringing was in terms of the values that were instilled, that kind of thing. That was similar. She was brought up in the Lutheran church. I was brought up in the Baptist church. So not, some similarities, but you know what I mean? So there was a lot. I mean, her parents her parents were born in Puerto Rico. Her grandparents immigrated to Puerto Rico from Spain. So, it's a whole different upbringing. Their life being she lived in San Diego for 50-some years, almost 60 now. But their life is different than growing up on a farm in Oklahoma, and all the stuff that I lived.
Yeah.
And so those were things we had to get out. Well, those are things we had to have conversations about. And I've literally had podcast interviews that I've done where I've hit end on the recording.
Yeah.
And the guest gets up and goes, I gotta go home and talk to my wife right now. And I'm like, why? I just told you 6 things I haven't told her.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you need to, and premarital counseling brings all that out of you. So anyway, so you're a coach, consultant, knocking it out of the park, having a great time. What's next? Well, obviously we need to find you a wife.
Yeah. That's important for me. But there's levels of that I can control and can't control.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why has it taken 6 years?
Oh, well, I mean, it's technically longer than 6 years if you're looking at it. But, so that's one of those interesting questions. I don't know, it's been a while since you were single, Mike, but I think
It has been, actually.
that single people, especially getting into your 30s, when people ask why, right, it implies first off that there's something wrong with the season.
Oh, I'm not making any implication at all. I'm just asking in terms of why, what's your opinion in terms of what you think, why you think it's taken as long as it has?
Well, so I think there are things in my life that have happened that I'm very grateful for, and I don't think I would have had those experiences in a relationship. There's kind of like my plan, which would have been getting out of college and get married right away. And I think God's plan has had some different turns to it.
Okay.
And I think my opinion on why it's taken so long is not necessarily that I have been doing something wrong or there's just no quality Christian girls out there or single girls out there. It's not any of that. I think there's been great purpose and meaning to the years that I've spent. And I'm very grateful for what I've been able to learn pre-making that commitment that I now get to take into that commitment. And I'm learning, I'm not great at it, I'm learning at surrendering results. I think in any facet of our life, whether it's real estate, the gym, right, there is a natural desire to just focus on a result. But freedom and peace come from spending all your time on the journey and the activity. So for me, I'm learning to surrender the result of married or not married, in a relationship, not in a relationship, and let go of control of that and focus on, hey, am I becoming the type of person that would be someone would want to be married to? Am I putting myself in an environment where I'm going to meet new people?
I'm not implying you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just asking you what you think.
Yeah, I think there's been important things that have happened.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have gone that way. I'd have different priorities if I was married, right? So the simple version, like I said, is I'm not necessarily like gung-ho, yay, I would have chosen this for myself.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I'm like, this is what it has been. And I think there was great purpose and meaning to what I've been able to do and accomplish in the time that I've been single, that I'm grateful for.
So how old are you now?
33.
Okay. So when I was going to get married, or not going to get married until I was 35. Told everybody I was going to be 35 when I got
That
married.
was your plan.
That's the way it's going to be. That's the standard, whatever, right? And I'm 25.
That would have been my plan.
No, sorry, 24. I'm 24. I'm 24, and I'm standing in the back room, the back of a seminar, a room where a seminar is happening. And there's a bunch of people standing on either side of me that are trying to talk me into coming to work at this company. And they're putting on the seminar, right? They're sponsoring.
Yeah.
And so the seminar finishes, and they're, yapping, right? Seminar finishes, and I look at the crowd, And in this entire crowd of, I don't know, maybe 100 plus people, maybe more, there might have been 150. This girl gets up, turns around, and stretches. But she's facing me, right? Because they were looking the other way. And I went, hey, who's that? And they go, oh, that's Mimi. I'm like, we need to get me over there so I can meet her, okay? And they're like, okay, well, let's go see if we, so they, we walk over, right? And I'm like, introduce me to Mimi. Now I can introduce myself to Mimi, right? I've never met a stranger, according to most people, right? So we head over there. She goes out the other door. By the time we get out to the parking lot, she's driven away. So I never got a chance to meet her. 2 years later, that same company hires me, true story, hires me as the VP of Sales and Marketing. Puts me in charge of 48 loan officers. And I'm 26, right? And the owner says, hey, why don't you just give them a real quick 5-minute sample of what the sales training is going to be like? And so I got up and I did 10 minutes basically, right? She's sitting in the front row, okay? And as soon as I finished, I got a standing ovation and everybody's whooping and hollering and they're so excited and all this kind of stuff. She gets up and walks out the door. Very first person out, right? And the owner happens to be standing you can't make this up, by the way. Yeah, owner happens to be standing in the office that she's walking out, and he goes, what do you think? And she said, that's the most obnoxious thing I've ever seen in my life. Who in the world does he think he is? 2 years later, we were married.
Wow.
I'm not joking, right? But I had figured out in my mind what my plan was going to be. And I was going to be married when I was 35, and that was it. Okay, I'm married at 27, right? I was almost 28. Yeah. Right? So here's the thing that I'm going to share with you. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The same thing happens in life. Okay? Same thing happens in life. Look in the Bible. When you're ready, it'll appear. You with me?
Yep.
Because God's working on this, I promise you.
Yeah.
I promise you. You just got to be ready.
Yeah. I like that. So the question was, what's next? Yeah, I'll get ready. But other things wise, professionally, I just, long time coming, launched some social media activity, posting videos and little clips of things I say on coaching calls.
Oh, I like that.
So I have a setup where whenever a client asks me a question, I can record my response, and then I put little YouTube shorts or Instagram reels up. So I've just started that this fall, something I've been wanting to do for a while, and get into more content creation. I feel like it's a no-brainer as a coach. It's like, if I was sitting in a room trying to come up with ideas, I would not come up with half the ideas you do in conversations with people about real problems.
Yeah.
I feel like part of what I want to accomplish is encapsulate those and be able to share those with more people.
There's wisdom there.
Absolutely. And it's like a co-creation. Like sometimes someone has a problem, I don't know the answer, but through the process of our coaching call, we create the answer. And that answer is really valuable for a lot of other people. So for me, finding ways to kind of take this beautiful opportunity and gift I have of what I get to do for work and be able to share those insights with others. So that's something I'm working on and growing. I've done a bit more training and speaking, so looking to get more opportunities for that. I like the idea of writing a book. I did a little fun chapter in a book. If you've ever seen those books that are like a compilation on a theme, they have a bunch of different authors. I did a chapter in one, and it was funny when I was being asked to do it. One of my mentors said, well, I'd probably wait longer to write something, because when you really have something to say that no one else has said before, then you should write a book. And I was like, you don't know me, I have plenty to say. I got lots of good stuff, right? So then I write this chapter in this book, and then I read Atomic Habits later that year, and I was like, oh man, James Clear, I mean, he didn't say it the way I said it, but like, that was much better than what I said. And it's like, well, who am I, right? So it's like, there's a lot of ideas and things I've been working on in terms of books. I think, not the same way you said that statement earlier, but I think when there's an idea or a principle or concept that is powerful enough, that's unsaid, that experience cured me of writing the book to be able to say I'm an author. I think there's just something cool for people nowadays to be like, oh, I wrote a book, you know, and nothing against people that write books, but just like, I want to write a book when I have something that I have to say that I feel is worth that, right? But I do see that in the future. How soon, I don't know. And I also want to get into building more. Our company has kind of mastered and is really great at creating, at scaling this concept of one-on-one accountability coaching, which I think at its core, I can't think of a better method to help someone reach their goals than what we're doing. But that only meets a specific small niche of people that are ready for that, willing for that, in that space in their life. And there's a lot of quality content that we cover in this capacity that could be delivered through online courses, things like that. So getting into creating other learning tools that are more self-paced, that can take a lot of the principles that we've developed as a company into just a more manageable package, smaller price points, things like that. I'd love to get into creating that. So those would be some of the things.
Couple of things.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming, right? So the whole idea of writing something that hasn't been written.
That probably will never happen.
Well, but here's just let me ask, okay? So you wrote what you wrote in that book, the chapter.
Yeah.
Then you read Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Is it possible that and I read Atomic Habits twice, right? Is it possible that the way he wrote it, even though he's saying the same thing, is it possible that the way he wrote it might not reach everybody that you reach, or vice versa?
Yeah, and the reality is, my whole point was a topic that was like a secondary thing in one chapter.
Right.
But yes, you're right.
Okay. I think that's
I think
that's worth considering.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this.
Ask me that.
So the one-on-one coaching.
Yes.
Why do you think such a small percentage of the population does one-on-one coaching?
Well, I have been learning, the majority of people I talk to, Mike, have never necessarily looked into it. A lot of people have heard of it, but I think as a industry, it's gaining steam. But the reality is, I've had situations where companies are paying 100% for their people to get a coach, and they say no, because it's the accountability, it's being held to something. Like when you sign up for a coach, you can't ignore what you know you've been needing to do that you've been putting off.
Right.
You're literally putting money down saying, in this next year or however long I stay in coaching, I am going to overcome this thing I've been battling for most of my life in most scenarios. And I'm going to be held accountable to that. And that's extremely scary. And most people say they want success, but aren't willing to pay the sacrifice to get it. So I would say that's the simple answer. Accountability sucks. And it's painful. And it goes again. Like, we are survival by biology. It's like, I want to get, whatever calories I consume, my brain and my body is trying to use the systems necessary to get as much accomplished with the least expended energy. Right? So everything about success is the opposite of how our bodies are wired to function. We're trying to survive. And success is like, get out of your comfort zone. Do something that's more difficult. Like historians still wonder how we ever went from hunters and gatherers to farmers, because agrarian farming lifestyles are so much more effort in the front end to start that. So it's like a lot of success and a lot of what people are signing up for with coaching goes against a lot of their nature. And it's very painful and full of friction. And that's why a lot of people don't do it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you read Never Split the Difference?
I haven't. I've started on my Audible. I haven't gone through all of it, but
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. In fact, of all the people that I know, you're probably going to love it more than anybody. There's a part in there about a child who's an American being taken hostage. I don't know if it's a child or an adult, but it's an American that's in Haiti that's taken hostage, and he was the chief negotiator for FBI hostage rescue. And every time an American internationally was taken hostage, he got the call to negotiate their freedom. He also worked with one of the warlords in the Philippines too. You're gonna love this, man. Your life is literally like where he's. You guys have chewed the same dirt. So he talks about something called the amygdala. Do you know what that is?
I don't. I know
It's
the
the part-
amygdala.
That may be what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right. Is that what it is?
Is it part of the brain?
Part of the brain.
Yeah. Amygdala.
Amygdala. Sorry.
You're good.
Amygdala.
There's basal ganglia
There you
in
go.
there
There
too,
you
so
go.
you can mix the two.
But the
Amygdala.
amygdala is literally responsible for flight or fight.
Yeah.
Okay, that part of your brain is actively trying to save you.
Yeah.
It's where fear comes from.
Yeah.
Right? It's the thing that's trying to preserve you. So if you listen to somebody like David Goggins will tell you that the minute that amygdala?
Yeah.
Am I saying it right? Sorry. I've been saying it wrong all these years. But the minute that kicks in and that voice says, don't go outside, don't go running, don't work out, that's when they trigger it. Tony Robbins is the same way. Tony Robbins goes every morning and does a cold plunge. And the reason he does it is because of his amygdala.
Yep.
He wants to control that versus it controlling him.
Yep.
Okay? That's where true success comes from.
Yep.
Okay? So I wanted to share it with you. And
Love that.
here's the other thing. Let me ask you a question. What do people fear the most?
I feel like I have answers to that question often, but now that you're asking it me now, what do they fear the most? Based on statistics, based on my opinion, maybe not being enough, right? Like they're afraid of not providing, not having, fear of their wants and needs and not surviving.
It's like imposter syndrome kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to answer this question. What people fear the most. I feel like we're innately wired for, my brain's going way too deep on this question.
It's okay, it's all right. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah, try it again.
Is it possible that what human beings fear the most is what they don't know?
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Fear the unknown.
So let me share something with you.
Yeah.
There's some real wisdom in where you're headed with your company in the group coaching idea. Let me share with you what I mean. People will sign up for group coaching way before they sign up for one-on-one coaching because they want to dip their toe in the water. They want to see what the temperature of the water is. They want to see how that coach is going to treat them. They want to see what this thing is all about, right? So you get them together as a group because there's safety in groups, okay? They get to experience what it is that what dabs of success they can have. And once they get a comfort level, they then end up graduating to one-on-one coaching.
Mm.
It's a testing ground. It's their opportunity. And I learned this not too long ago from somebody who's incredibly smart, and he was my podcast coach starting, right?
Cool.
And he said one of the things that you have to do with, because I don't know if you may not, it's okay if you don't know this, but over 90% of podcasts never make it past episode 2.
I'm not surprised. I don't know if I heard that exact.
Like 91% or something. It's some absolutely crazy number.
The number of podcasts versus how many are actually listened to.
Right. So when he met me, he was like, okay, you're really determined. And I'm like, yeah, we're not going to 2 and quitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing this thing, right? Because I already had, by the time I met him to hire him as a coach, I already had everything all set up. I had my equipment all set up. I had everything set up. I was all set up. I was not doing it right, and he pointed that out, right? And so it was invaluable hiring him as a coach. But one of the things that I learned was a lot of people will not sign up for coaching because they don't know how it's going to go. They don't know how they're going to be treated. They don't know if it's going to be a success, but they'll become a part of a community.
Yeah.
They'll become a part of a group coaching group. That will help them understand the value that comes, and then they end up graduating to one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
That's not how I roll, by the way. I hired him right.
Yeah.
I didn't even become
Yeah.
I mean, I literally hired him one-on-one as a coach, and then 2 weeks later found out there was a community. Right?
Yeah.
I'm the opposite of,
Yeah.
I mean, but anyway, just so you know, the vast majority of people have to ease into things. They have to experience things in a gentle fashion rather than the way some of us do it. Some of us with brain damage, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's brilliant what you guys are working on.
Yeah. So it's exciting stuff.
And I'd love to see you write a book.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to stay on you until you do.
Okay. I have a few ideas. I even have some nonfiction ideas.
Absolutely.
Some fiction ideas too.
You absolutely will be brilliant.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
Well, the one thing, when you asked about accountability, this just hit me. I don't think I've ever kind of verbalized this, and I don't say this, I don't know, when you were talking about that question, I was like, that's such a good question, like asking people. And I always get frustrated when I talk to leaders who are in charge of so many people, but they have zero accountability.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and I want to say this in the humblest way possible, is that I want to list out my accountability, but like, this is how I can function at a high level. I have two managers, Dave and Emmy, hold me accountable to a lot of things business-wise. Like someone in the company might have a boss that I hire and pay for a one-on-one coach named Bob, who holds me accountable to a lot of things, and we get in and out of business and work. I have an emotional intelligence coach named Jules, phenomenal. Had a call with her yesterday, helping me develop my skill sets as a actual coach and how I like connect on an emotional level with people. I also have Justin, who's my physical trainer, who holds me accountable to go to the gym. And I'm currently, 17 weeks in, consistent. And I worked with him in 2019 and then stopped because I thought I could do it on my own. But now I'm working with him again. And then I have a group of guys that we meet once or twice a month, kind of peer level, that hold me accountable to a lot of things in my personal life and the type of man I want to be and those type of things. So there's a lot there. And then even just the fact that I read my Bible every morning is a level of accountability of, this is the standard, like you said. I don't talk about my faith in a way that I'm better than others. We're all fall short, and I'm broken. And if I didn't look at what the standard was of what it means to have life abundantly, I would be way off track every day. And for me, I have to fight for that, and that's a habit I've had to develop over years. But to be able to have routines in my life where it's like, okay, this is what I'm held accountable to. This is my standard. And again, as you can see, accountability is lots of forms. I have plenty of group. I even have the pastors in which I serve with in the church that are, it's like, if I'm going to serve with the capacity I do here, they in essence are holding me accountable. I can't do certain things. And I think, if anything, I can attribute success or accomplishment, it's to seeking those things out and searching for that. And that's not even to mention the people that look to me. That's another level of accountability as my job. But I think whoever you are and wherever you are in life, it's like that question that Mike asked about who holds you accountable. Ask yourself that, and then look at where. Again, it's not go hire a one-on-one coach. That's for some people. But it's like, man, do you have a buddy? Are you guys at the same place in life, married with kids that can hold each other together to be better fathers, right? Do you have a spouse? What is your community? Because I think we die in isolation. And I think, I don't know about you, Mike, but COVID was like, this will kill people, this isolation piece.
And it did.
Yeah.
And it's still having an effect. I mean, alcoholism, drug abuse, all those kind of things, suicide, all that kind of stuff went way through the roof because people didn't have the outlet of going to work anymore. Okay? And that whole isolation and that fear and all of that, I mean, it was surreal. And it was one of those things where you found out, at least I found out, how absolutely fragile humankind is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, we're sort of, a lot of us, teetering on the edge, and there's some real wisdom to the fact that you really need to find somebody that you give permission to hold you accountable. Okay, you give permission to have those uncomfortable conversations with. I'm going to make one more suggestion and then we're going to wrap up. There's a book called Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti.
I've heard the Mars and Venus one, but not waffles and spaghetti.
That ghostwriter of mine, my former pastor, right, married us, all that, Bill. He wrote it. Bill and his wife Pam. It's the idea behind it is men compartmentalize everything, okay, into these little squares, okay, like a waffle. Women, everything, bless their heart, everything is intertwined like a bowl of spaghetti. You cannot ask a female to leave their emotions at the door because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Everything they do is charged with emotion. And by the way, that's a very, very, very good thing.
Absolutely. That
all of us need to embrace. We need to cherish. Okay? So one of the things that I'll do if I'm not sure whether I want to be in business with somebody or not is I'll introduce them to my wife. Within 35 seconds, she'll know whether I want to be in business with that person or not. Okay? She just has an intuition. She has that absolute benefit, that absolute prize of emotion that I just don't have.
Or the gift, yeah.
I just don't have it. Yeah, it's a gift. It's an absolute gift. They're born with it.
Yeah.
Okay? It also, by the way, will help you when you're getting ready to find your partner in life. Because it's literally a textbook on how women are built. It's also a textbook on how we're built.
Yeah.
Right? And women need to read that, okay? But we need to be in a place where we appreciate the way that the women in our life are wired.
I love that, Mike. Yeah. Ask yourself, who's holding you accountable? That's our challenge, is find someone in your life that you can openly ask for accountability.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate your time. This was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.